Can I come to what you described as one of your missions, which is to combat the weaponization, I think you said, of international law?
Yes.
I read your speech about the legal basis for settlements in the West Bank, in which you made the case that Israel's borders were set in 1948 and in international law, that is, should still be the position. But you also said that that was not the position as determined by the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, and most other commentators. Given that, I mean, how can you continue to maintain that in international law, Israel is not in breach through settlements in the West Bank?
Because I consider, as a legal professional, my first duty to be to the rule of law and to upholding international law. And one cannot have a general rule, such as uti possidetis juris, which you referenced. This is this customary rule of international law, which is universally applicable as a default rule. And its application to Israel's formation on the 14th of May 1948. I have, in a decade of discussing this with leading academics around the world, I have yet to hear a single reason why it would not apply. We can certainly go into some of the detail of that.
Can I interrupt you, because you set out the argument quite clearly in your speech, and
I'm sorry, I'm not sure which speech you're referring to.
I'm afraid I can't give you the precise date, but anyway,
Yes.
What you're talking about is exactly the.
He can't give her the speech that he's quoting her. He can't provide her the literal speech that he's grilling her about.
The case you put at that time, and I understand that. What I don't understand is that almost all international legal bodies take a different view, and why should that be when you argue that the case in legal terms is very clear?
So, despite about a decade of seeking to get to the bottom of a plausible reason why this would be disapplied, this default rule, to Israel's formation in 1948, I have yet to encounter one. What has been presented so far is essentially predicated on the Partition Resolution of 1947, which is a General Assembly resolution, and political resolution, not legally binding, which made a recommendation which was never implemented. So that does not, I'm afraid, displace a default rule of customary international law, which has been applied from the 19th century through to the dissolution of the former communist federations, and indeed to any state emerging from a mandate. And justice.
Can I just cut across you just for a moment? So your position essentially is that since the British mandate was all of the land up to the river in 48, that Israel is the whole of that area as well.
Well, of course, the original mandate was far bigger.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
So let's not go into past history. Let's just try and stick.
Well,
To
the question, it is important because this rule applies to the administrative lines of the mandate. The administrative line that had previously divided Transjordan, what later became the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, from the rest of the mandate, is the line that ran all the way down along the Jordan River to the Red Sea.
Yes.
And that, under this universal customary rule, that is the only line in play when Israel declares independence.
So that's where I wanted to start, right?
Yes.
So that's your position. Now the question is, though, it's not the position, because we've not heard from the Israeli government. But it's not the Israeli government's position, is it?
The Israeli government has...
The Israeli government position is not that Israel's borders go from the river, the Jordan River, to the sea, is it?
May I take a moment to answer, because you are skipping through decades of history and policy.
But what I want to do is just because we're missing the Israeli government here, I just want to make sure that I haven't missed something.
Well,
it's not the Israeli government's position that Israel begins at the River Jordan and finishes at the Mediterranean Sea, is it?
I'm not here to represent the Israeli government.
No, I just want to make sure that I've got that.
I'm speaking to the application of international law, real international law, that is universally
Which the Israeli
applied.
government is not applying.
Well, that's not accurate. And if I may be permitted to answer the question, perhaps the committee will follow the response.
I just have to interrupt. This woman, the woman that's questioning her, is not only hostile, she actually reminds me of Umbridge. If you follow Harry Potter, it's the woman in pink who is very, very passive aggressive. So she won't outright scream at you, but she'll be like, excuse me, well, what were you saying there? She'll cough and be extremely, extremely passive aggressive to everybody. And this is exactly what this woman is exhibiting here. She's an absolute, excuse my language, an absolute bitch. She is an absolute bitch.
What Posidetis Juris does is it tells us the starting point. This is the position in 1948. It is in fact endorsed by all subsequent agreements. The armistice agreements between Israel and Egypt and Israel and Jordan in 1949, and later on also the peace agreements, only refer back to those mandatory lines, administrative lines of the British Mandate. That is significant. What happens in 1967 when Israel recovers the relevant territory, the disputed territory that had previously been under Jordanian occupation? This is the parts of East Jerusalem and the West Bank or Judea and Samaria, is that it treated those territories differently. The Israeli government applied its law, administration and jurisdiction in full to East Jerusalem. And critically, Abba Evan, who was the foreign minister at the time, writes to the UN Secretary General in 1967 and says this is not annexation.
Exactly.
Which is because one cannot annex what is already one's own sovereign territory.
That was brilliant. She said it's not annexation. So the other woman thinks that she's admitting that Israel is doing something wrong. So she's like, exactly. And then she's like, because you cannot annex your own territory. Oh, that's great.
So if you're asking, me, forgive me, the question was, what is Israel's position? That was Israel's position in 1967. Since then, of course, in pursuit of this land for peace formula, Israel anticipated that peace with Jordan would be achieved by giving Jordan some of the West Bank. So a temporary administration was instituted in Judea and Samaria. Now, that peace with Jordan, when it eventually came along in 1994, didn't include land to Jordan because it no longer wanted anything to do with that territory. So that temporary administration lasted until the Oslo Accords, which I'd already referenced in relation to the absence of ICC jurisdiction. But critically, the Oslo Accords created the Palestinian autonomy in areas A and B, but they did not change the status of the territory, the underlying status of the territory. That has always been a matter that the parties and international backers have agreed was a matter for final status negotiations.
Exactly, so and it is yet to be, and it is so it is not. So your answer is that Israel has not stated that the Israel begins at Jordan and ends at the sea.
Forgive me. Israel does not need to state that, and
well, it doesn't.
You're equating, I'm afraid, two very, very different things here. What is the legal status of the territory? And let me be clear: uti possidetis juris is a default rule that applies automatically, whatever Israel says or not.
Or anyone else in the world says.
Unless
in international law.
Yes, because when the International Court of Justice talked about the emergence of this rule in Burkina Faso, Mali, in the 1980s, it talked about the reasons for its emergence: clean lines, stability, certainty, avoiding fratricidal struggles, all of these issues which uniquely, I would say, it's disapplication here for no reason that can be discerned in international legal analysis, has unfortunately generated all of those issues that the ICJ said this rule had emerged to obviate.
Okay,
now,
hang on, let me just
May I just finish the answer to this question, because it's critically important. Israel has not, when it declared independence, it did not reference borders. It simply talked about Eretz Israel. It is not required for Israel to claim that uti possidetis juris arises or applies, and I'm not making a case on or in any way on behalf of the Israeli government. This is simply my analysis as to what the international legal position is, which is, I believe, what I was asked to attend today to provide.
Okay, so can I just stop you there, because there'll be some more questions for you.